Centerville Town Council will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, council, we have agenda review. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to review of minutes from past meetings. You have in your packets the January 2nd, 2025 minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I have a few myself. So I think it's Jim Beecham. He was absent, I think, at the last meeting, so sure he's present. The other was on page 4, under Public Works, second bullet, says would to the town are, so that just needs to be taken out there. I didn't know, too, when we talked about the cost of the current recycling trash and yard waste, $55.99. I think Kip also spoke about comparable price to outside of the town was like, I don't know, $75 or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me, you know. So I thought that was an important piece of information. Just so again, you see comparability, and outside it didn't include recycling. Is that right, Kip? So I thought that was an important aspect to maybe include in the minutes. January 19th here. And I think.
And could you please repeat the bullet? It was
sure.
in Public Works. Where was that?
Yeah, that was just under.
Oh, the second
under
bullet.
Public Works, just like the cost, the current cost is $55.99. And then just add whatever the correct cost is to have comparability for the minutes. Yeah. I think that's it, yeah. Corrections.
We'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes as corrected.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up, we have our citizens forum. So citizens are requested to keep their comments to 3 minutes. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council at this time? Okay, come on up. Are you going to bring that mic up? Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chris Mullen with Comcast. I'm one of the local government affairs representative, and I'm pleased to announce that we are coming to Centerville. We have sent a proposed franchise agreement to the town for your review, and your solicitor is currently reviewing it and everything. But just to talk a little bit about what Comcast is, we are one of the largest telecommunications companies in the nation. We serve we do everything today, from cell phones to traditional cable TV to internet, you name it, we probably are involved in helping to do it. Just this past December up in our test laboratory, which I shouldn't really call that, it's a massive city block in Philadelphia, we announced our DOCSIS 4.0 standard for the internet, everything else. Right now, DOCSIS 3.2 is the current standard. With our 4.0 network, we are getting 10 gigabytes symmetrical speeds, which is astronomical. And that is what we are proposing to bring here to Centerville using our EPON network, which is our state-of-the-art fiber network. And we are just looking forward to become community partners, getting involved in everything that is important to you, because once we become your neighbors, we are your neighbors, and we are not looking to do anything. So during the entire process, I will be your go-to touch person during all of the construction. If we knock down a brick as if we're doing underground work and something is just not right, contact me. I've got a team on standby who's going to make sure we restore everything to the way it was, if not better. Because again, we want to be your good neighbors, and how can we do that if we're, well, making a mess? So I just wanted to introduce myself to council and say we're coming to town, and how can we help you?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
And you have that franchise? Yes. Awesome. All right, thanks for being here.
you. Wow.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Any other citizens that wish to address the council? All right. Next up, we have appearances. Brandon Davis from DMS Associates about Hillside.
Pass those out.
They pass. I can make These are just larger copies of the packet that we submitted, just because their plan's a little easier to.
Hey, here, Ashley.
Oh, do you have enough? Yeah, I have a bunch.
Okay. I don't have to have one.
Oh, I need one more. Good evening. I'm Brendan Mullaney with McAllister, Detar, Showalter, and Walker. I'm counsel for Hillside Liquors and Deli LLC, which is the applicant and proposed developer for a new building at 425 South Commerce Street in the town limits. The property is zoned C2 and IDA. It's 1.912 acres, and what's proposed is a 12,712 square foot, two-story structure that includes 4,700 square feet of retail, 1,344 square feet of warehouse storage to support the retail, and 6,356 square feet, which is the second floor, which will have 6 two-bedroom apartments in it to serve residents of the town. This applicant owns and operates Hillside Liquors, which is already in the town limits. They have the option to remain there under a long-term lease, but they need to expand their business, and they want to move to a new location and better a property in the town. We have appeared in front of the Planning Commission twice, and there are some dynamics, including a 15-foot wide pedestrian easement that was created in 2009 on the property, and the need to petition the council to grant 7 EDUs of water and sewer for the proposed uses on the property, which is why we're before you tonight. So the request from this contract purchaser for this property and this business is that the council directs the town attorney after tonight to draft an amended public works agreement that we'll get to in a moment, but relocates the 15-foot wide pedestrian easement that was created in 2009, and also as part of that public works agreement approves 7 EDUs of water and sewer allocation for the proposed uses on the property. Just a brief history of this property, as you may know, and all of this was contained in a 2.5-page letter that I submitted on behalf of the applicant with some materials that we just passed out duplicates of. But in 2007, the town approved the property for 15 apartment units. That project did not move forward, and in 2009, 16 residential condominiums were approved on the property by the council. And a public works agreement, the one that created the easement, was put into place that allocated 15 EDUs of water and sewer to the property for the residential uses that were proposed, and created that 15-foot wide trail easement for the use of the town if the town wanted to improve it in the future. To date, the town has not utilized that easement. In 2020, January 13th, 2020, SHA acquired 7,604 square feet of the property through an eminent domain taking. That was the portion of the property that was on the southwestern portion and abutted the public right-of-way. So relatively significant portion of the property, including a portion of the easement area, was taken by the state and has become SHA right-of-way. And Brandon Davis, who's with the design firm for this project, engineering firm for the project, is going to walk through that in a moment. We heard, not in person, but certainly reviewed the video of a couple of different meetings that you all had where you voiced concerns, I think primarily about the proposed architecture and this being viewed as a gateway into the town. And while architecture is arguably subjective, we heard those concerns and went back to the drawing board and submitted with the letter that I was just talking about new plans for the proposed structure that incorporate we believe the more of the characteristics that hopefully the council sees as in keeping with downtown Centerville. So with that, I'd like to introduce Greg Torchio with Torchio Architects just to walk through, starting on sheet 3 of the packages that were passed out, which is the floor plan for the proposed building, and then moving into the elevations, just to talk through the architecture and orient the council to the different facades and where those vantage points are from. Yeah, would you?
Just out of curiosity, does Hillside Liquors currently have some sort of massive animal as their logo? Like, is that sign current?
I believe
or that's like a new,
proposed
that's
new
considered
sign.
a new beautiful sign.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
I was going to mention,
Go back on.
go back on, just briefly. In looking at this plan, to the right is Common Street. So this long side facing the bottom of the sheet faces south or toward the stream. As mentioned, the first
To the
floor.
left, you mean? Commerce Street's on the left side of the screen, correct?
Yes. Did I say right?
You did.
No, I think you were, yeah, okay.
We
The mill
understood.
stream's below.
My other, right.
Yeah. Picture it.
And
Sunny.
the retail on the ground floor, the apartments on the upper floor, there's an entrance, a large porch on the front facing the street, where you can enter both the store and the apartments up through the stairs. And then another entry along the south side, about in the middle of the building, to enter the store, and entry in the rear to enter the apartments. There's also a covered ramp on the back corner of the building, which provides handicap access and delivery access. The building is raised up about 4 feet. The floor would be about 4 feet above grade because of the floodplain. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So the building, the last design you looked at was inspired by the history of the site, which has been industrial for many years, and that flavor of a new industrial building was what we were seeking. In response to your comments, we have revised the top of the building to have sloped roofs. As you can see, there's a gable facing the street over the stair tower that has accentuated cap to the top with brickwork and cast stone. And then another opposing gable that runs north-south, and then, which is that, along with a mansard roof that runs down both sides, is screening the flat roof, which is a necessity for us on this site to put mechanical equipment up on the roof. Because of the floodplain, we can't put anything on the ground. So that is pretty well screened with a 5-foot-high parapet, so no equipment would be seen. And you can see on the next page that we've
put an amenity for the apartments, a roof deck, because the planning commission had brought up that there wasn't a lot of space allocated on site for recreation for the tenants. So this is a roof deck that would only be used for the tenants of the apartments. And there is a blow-up picture on this, on the bottom right-hand corner, that shows some of the detailing of the brickwork in the metal standing seam roof. And on the following pages are elevations of every side of the building, and some detailing of the signs and the site lighting. So that's a brief overview of the changes that were made, which is predominantly the roof. Can you answer any questions now? Or
Hey, Greg, you mentioned the mechanical equipment up on the roof. It's not shown on here that I can decipher. Is it in that white area of the roof deck? Is that where the mechanical equipment will go?
Yeah, so there's basically a wall separating the roof deck from the rest of the roof, that grayish white area, and that's where the mechanical equipment would be. So from the roof deck, you're not going to be able to see it because of that wall.
Thank you.
I have a question. So I'm just trying to get oriented to the building. So as far as at the top left, so that's what you're seeing when you're on Commerce Street looking on to the building, that
Yeah,
top
pretty
left?
much, that's the view
Right.
from about the bridge angle, probably.
Okay, because when you drive over the bridge, I was thinking it was the one at the bottom left, kind of, when you're coming over the bridge, you're looking at that.
Yeah, because that's the back.
That's more from the back rear, from the southeast corner.
Okay, towards the State Highway Administration, which we will acquire soon, that side?
Yeah, so that's like if you were standing on their proposed trail and trying to look at Sitco.
Okay,
This building, that would be there now.
that,
From the trail all the way in the back corner of the
Yeah.
property.
right.
The top left is pretty much the view from the bridge. And as you come around, you have a straight-on view to the right, and then as you keep coming around, if you took your eyes off the road and looked back, you would see the bottom right. Or if you were standing at Sitco, that would be the
Right,
view.
you're looking at that, right. Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I just got one question. Where is the fire department connection going to be, on the back of the building or the front of the building?
Front right corner, on the, right by the intersection of the
Okay.
stair tower.
Okay.
Right
Yep.
here.
Yep, got it.
And the building will be sprinkled, you know,
Yeah.
so the sprinkler room is right inside that
Okay.
corner.
So I'll say, yeah, architecture is super subjective. It looks better relative to what it used to look like, to be clear. Although I find that sign jarring. A 6-foot-tall deer does not scream liquor store to me, but hey, it's your business, not mine. I have a couple questions about the letter. So on the first page of the letter, it says a 6,356 square foot building. That's a typo. It's double that.
That's a footprint of the building.
Okay, well, that's not what this says. So it's a typo, I guess. On the last page of the letter, it says, as previously agreed upon by the town and the property owner as to the trail. When is that agreement from? Is that from one of these previous public works agreements you're saying, or from some time more current? Who's the town as referenced there?
October 15th, 2009 is when the PWA was signed by the town and the property owner.
So that's what you're referencing when you say the relocation of the trail here? The new location for the easement? Or maybe it's just clunky, the way it reads to me. I just wanted to make sure, you're talking about some previous agreement, like 15 years ago, not any sort of recent agreement.
There are no recent agreements.
Okay.
What's the last one?
Well, I just wasn't sure if you meant like a handshake agreement or
No.
with somebody else or what.
Right, I agree.
Are there any other questions about the architecture? I'd like to move on and talk about the easement.
So I have one, so on the elevation, maybe you'll get into this. So when you're walking, well, you'll get to the trail. I'll ask a question. Sorry, I'll wait. Sorry. I'll wait until the trail's discussed. It kind of ties to that.
So if you would, the first two sheets of the package that was handed out tonight is a new easement exhibit showing the proposed improvements. Proposed improvements are on both of these sheets. The purpose of this exhibit is to show, the first sheet is the existing location of the 15-foot wide pedestrian easement that was agreed to in 2009. And the second sheet depicts a revised location for the 15-foot wide trail easement. Brandon, would you just walk through these two, please?
Sure. So on the top of your packet, again, is the 2009 trail easement as plotted over top of our proposed layout and the current conditions of the property. In 2009, the property line was essentially just behind the existing sidewalk that's out there. The current property is labeled with the call-outs they're in small hexagons. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is essentially the front property line now on that exhibit that you have in front of you. And back in 2009, it was all the way out to the sidewalk. That trail in 2009 entered the property as shown on the exhibit in front of you, and then veered over to the trail where in front of you, you'll see that trail actually overlaps the current condition of the stream, because the stream was realigned as part of the bridge project in 2019. I think this works. It doesn't work on the screen, but right where there's a label and a leader, an arrow that says 15-foot wide trail easement from Public Works agreement. Right where that leader is pointing to is that general swath where the 15-foot wide trail easement is over top of open water of the stream as the stream currently exists due to that relocation. And then the trail finally crosses onto the current condition of the property close to where that hexagon with the number 1 just past the word mill finally crosses onto the current condition of the property. And then it ran, the path of that easement from 2009 generally followed a proposed curb and gutter alignment from that 2009 site plan that was referenced that had 16 condominiums. The building and parking were very close, within probably 20 feet of the existing curb and gutter from that 2009 site plan. So the second.
So Brandon, before you move to the second sheet, it's important to note that the relocation of the easement is proposed and requested and necessary because you've designed the layout of the project, including the stormwater features, to minimize impacts to sensitive environmental areas on the site. Can you just walk through
Site layout?
That and why these stormwater features that conflict with the easement as it exists today are proposed where they are?
The proposed stormwater management is shown on both the first and second sheet you have in the packet in front of you. The stormwater management is proposed landward or outside of existing non-tidal wetlands. So we had a wetland specialist delineate non-tidal wetlands that are actually up and above the stream bank in between our proposed stormwater management and the stream bank. So we're citing our proposed stormwater management and site layout to avoid non-tidal wetlands to the maximum extent possible, and we're mimicking that boundary with that proposed retaining wall, keeping that retaining wall outside of and landward of the stream and outside of the non-tidal wetlands. So that's why there is a unique shape to that stormwater management feature that kind of wraps around the proposed pavement.
May I ask how tall the proposed retaining wall will be?
Ask how tall, I'm sorry?
How tall?
It'll have fill piled up against the back of it and on both sides of it, so you only see, I would estimate, about a foot of it. It's more for stability rather than an exposed wall.
So the top of the retaining wall above natural grade,
Above natural grade?
where you're proposing the new trail to be, basically. You have a section of that somewhere?
I don't have a section, but in the site plans, I have some topographic information. So the trail is just a paper easement to be used by the town at a future time of their desire.
On natural grade, presumably, right?
So the natural grade along the entire stream starts at the top of the stream bank. It comes up to the existing grades of the site. So there's right at the existing grades on the stream side of the proposed wall, closer to Commerce Street, are around an elevation 4. At some point, they get closer to an elevation 2, where, to put that in perspective, the top of wall is an elevation of 4.5.
2.5, so 2.5 feet, say, the top of wall, about 2.5 feet over natural grade.
Compared to existing grade, yes. But we're proposing to fill on the backside of that to not have them exposed, to minimize the exposure of the back of the wall, as you would see.
Sure, I didn't see that fill on the outboard side of the retaining wall on your page 2 site plan, but I hear what you're saying.
I didn't have proposed topography on that. That was more of an exhibit on the trail easement.
Well, I'm looking at your page 2 site plan with a proposed trail and seeing the retaining wall. You had said there was going to be fill up against it on both sides?
On sheet C4 would be the best. I think at the worst case scenario is close to where there's a label for just the word woods near number 12 with a circle around it. That's where the wall will have the most exposure, because that is our closest point to the non-tidal wetlands boundary. Kind of even with the proposed forebay of the stormwater. Near the word proposed for the proposed retaining wall label. So that's the worst case for the exposure, and we can only fill from the wetland boundary upwards. So I'm only able, on that back side of the wall there, I'm only able to achieve probably a half a foot of fill at a 3-to-1 side slope. So that would be the worst exposure of probably about 2 feet there, but the average will be substantially less than that as we get away from that constricted area.
Thank you.
There's just a question on the retaining wall. What materials are you planning on using on the retaining wall? Is that here?
We haven't gotten into the
That far.
structural design of that, because that will tag along with the building permit plans with the structural engineer.
And would there be, with your proposed trail, would there be natural material between that retaining wall and that trail? Is that on here? Sorry, it's hard for me to follow it a little bit. Or is it like right next to that retaining wall too?
Currently, we do not have any proposed. As you get to about the word retaining of the label for proposed retaining wall, you're into the existing vegetation that currently exists. So that's why we didn't propose any, because we're proposing to come right up to the existing hedgerow type of material that's there, because that's all in the non-tidal wetlands area.
So that's critical area commission review, is that right?
Non-tidal wetlands is Maryland Department of the Environment.
How much space is there between that trail and the water or the stream or?
Trail in the water,
I mean, how much is?
Proposed trail you're asking
Yeah,
about.
proposed easement.
proposed.
So the 2009 delineation of it had it right up on the top of the bank. I offset it a couple feet off of the surveyed stream edge and then delineated it to mimic the back of the retaining wall as soon as I possibly could. So on the second sheet, the second trail exhibit on your packet, the closest it comes to the stream is where we're mimicking what was done in 2009 as we cross the property. And then it starts to finally veer away from the stream as we get kind of even with the word wall of the proposed retaining wall label.
Run into the property line is the
Then
reason
it
why.
runs to the back property line where the 2009 easement took it.
Have you all talked to SHA about the part of this that's on their property?
We have not had any discussions with this.
Have you talked to SHA about the entrance to the property as proposed?
I've had a meeting with the District 2 liaison to show him the site plan.
They feel good about trucks making that right into this property?
I haven't heard any,
I'd be super curious about that.
I
Just because
haven't-
as you come down the road, I mean, like, maybe that's not our problem. I mean, it'll be our problem when somebody dies, I guess. But when you come down the road, to make that right turn onto the property right now feels unsafe. I can't imagine you're coming down 213 and a tractor trailer is trying to make that right. So I'm curious about that. I had assumed you guys had had conversations with SHA about the trail. I'd want to hear about that too, personally. To me, like, there's so many, maybe this will work if it's cool with SHA. Maybe it'll work if we have an idea of what the retaining wall will look like. I don't know. It just feels like a lot of question marks for me. Do you have questions about the elevation related to being on the trail?
Well, I guess I'm just trying to visualize it because it's hard to kind of like how close that trail's going to be, proposed trail, to the water, and how all tight that is as far as, you know, coming, going, retaining wall. So it's just hard for me to visualize how tight that space is.
Well, the
Well, they're not making a trail, they're just providing an easement for a trail.
Right, but
The
for us to
trail's not gonna be
eventually
15
have a
feet
trail.
wide,
But again,
right?
at the trail,
I mean,
again, visualizing.
how wide are our trails typically? I mean, 6 feet or something like that, right?
6 feet? Okay, Kip is confirming. 6 feet.
Right. So there's room to adjust within the easement where the trail's actually located, I would think, so.
And just to confirm, you went like this when you said retaining wall. The retaining wall's only at the tallest going to be 2.5 feet above
Yeah,
the
2.5
ground.
to 4, I think. is what-
Significantly shorter than the deer on the front of the building.
Most
It's not like this big wall, right, embankment.
No.
Get it,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that.
Right.
well, 2 feet.
Understood.
So this is a difficult situation because the easement was agreed to in 2009, and SHA has relocated the stream, which essentially has made the easement on the SHA land impossible because it's primarily located in what is now Mill Stream.
But that's our problem with SHA, not with you.
Correct. I mean, SHA owns the land, and what we're proposing moves the easement as it exists to the north in that area, on our property, on the applicant's property outside of the stream, and ends the easement area against the public right-of-way, which is the land that SHA owns. The modification to the easement would allow the proposed development. Again, I think that the concerns that we heard from the council in the meetings where this was discussed were primarily related to architecture, which we revised significantly in response to those concerns. The proposed location for the 15-foot wide reconfigured easement allows the development to move forward in the site plan process. So what we're requesting of the council tonight is that you direct your council to revise a public works agreement and relocate the easement area and grant the 7 EDUs that are necessary for the proposed uses.
I would like to hear from SHA on the portion that's on their property. It's hard for me to visualize like where these things are on it, what's currently an empty field. I'd be really curious about being able to see kind of what you guys are saying about the SHA readjustment of the stream and understand the change needed, and also understand if SHA is willing to agree to the necessary change. I guess, for me, I don't feel like I have enough information to do anything tonight.
So the existing, the entrance to this project And it doesn't have an existing entrance there right now?
Yes,
And is that 24 feet wide?
it's 24 feet wide and we're,
There's already an entrance there.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'm saying the
Yes.
entrance that's currently there
Yes.
does not feel safe to me.
Yes. But I agree with you, but that's not our state, that's state highway, because it's
I know,
off
but
the state highway.
the entrance required for an empty field and the entrance required for trucks to deliver product to a liquor store are two different
I agree.
safety
but-
needs.
But if state highway hasn't said anything by now,
Well,
they're
but
probably-
have they asked? That's my question.
Okay,
Like, has a
I got you.
conversation been had with State
Okay.
Highway?
And that
Because
would-
like, just like this petition, I could, come up with my
Yeah.
own list of things I feel about the property and ask people if they want to sign something. I could call SHA and tell them what I think
know what
about the
you're saying.
property and ask their opinion. It's going to depend how things are presented to people.
in addition to, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Can find
In
a Jeff
addition
later.
to the meeting and plan review meeting we had with soil conservation, I've also performed turning analysis, like in our AutoCAD program, we've widened the on-site area where the monumental signage is. I mean, it's all opened up with the turning radius in consideration. I've met with the trucking coordinator at Premium. It sounds like the largest potential truck is either going to come from Premium or come from Kelly Distributors, and they're delivering to the property once a week. And I asked, is there any frequency where there would be there more than once a week? And both of them came back and said, if there's another 2 or 3 additional weeks where they do a second delivery in a week, it's
Summertime, probably.
worst case scenario. So
Yes.
we're talking about that larger, articulating type of trailer vehicle entering the property once a week.
Okay.
Brandon, you've obviously done a lot of homework on this easement and right-of-way and so forth. The existing one pulls away from the creek towards the back of your property, as shown on page 1 of this packet. None of us were around in 2009 to know why it did that, and I haven't walked the site, don't have permission yet to walk the site, so do you have any sense of why that existing trail easement?
I have that 2009 site plan in front of me, and I can't decipher why either.
You've no doubt walked the site. Does the existing topography hint as to why it might have done that?
Nothing that I could tell. It doesn't mimic the non-tidal wetland delineation of the time as precisely as we're trying to do with our retaining wall. It still was proposed to go through the woods, even though there was some proposed adjacent clearing, and then it veered north and then shot back to the south. Which you can see on the cover sheet of what I handed you, I cannot determine why it did that.
I wonder if it was intended to tie into something not shown in our records,
Yeah.
where it says State Highway Administration.
Kip's nodding his head like that is the case.
The whole reason for that was for the the southeast portion of the extended Mill Stream.
Okay.
For a few years now.
So for the benefit of people who can't hear Kip that are watching at home, it's related to a connection to the trail we've been kind of working on expanding
Yes. Got it. Thank
over the
you.
last couple of years. Thank you, Kip. So,
Institutional knowledge.
yeah.
Perfect.
Gotta have it, for sure. I do want to say I very much appreciate the changes to the architecture, to be clear. All jokes about the sign aside, although, wow. I do, it looks much better. The building looks much better, and I appreciate the responsiveness to the concerns that I know I personally expressed both here and at the Planning Commission. I had also shared, whether it was in our meeting or the Planning Commission, I don't remember, they all run together, that for me, changes to something like an easement for a trail, which is related to the public good, very, very closely tied to the public good, for me, has to have a compelling public good sort of interest on the other side of it. And I don't see how the good is served by a massive liquor store. So I struggle with, wrapping my head around the changes needed to the easement for this sort of use. Friends of mine have signed this petition, so I don't mean to just say I don't care about the petition, but I will say I disagree with the premise of the petition. And I think if I went to Millstream Park and I held a petition that said, how much do you want a 12,000 square foot building with a liquor store in it across from your kid's favorite playground, I too could collect a whole ton of signatures against this project. So I think for what it's worth, people are gonna feel all sorts of different ways about it. But again, for me, when it comes to the easement, I've gotta have like some compelling public good that is served, that the town should make allowances. We have limited EDU, that the town should give EDU to this project, that the town should sort of let go of anything that we have, which is a current trail easement. And I don't see that here for me. So again, I need more information. I need information from State Highway about their portion of the property. I'd be curious how you all define affordable when it comes to the apartments, because that's like the only piece of this that I can see as contributing to the public good. But I need more information. I've made super clear publicly in at least one meeting here and one meeting at the Planning Commission that if I were this applicant, I would reach out to members of the council and talk to them. That's never happened. And that's like a little stunning to me, quite frankly, because we hear from people trying to do stuff in town all the time. And so if this is like the one shot you think we have to make decisions, then I'm inclined to say I'm gonna table this until I have a whole lot more information. I would avail myself to meet with you guys anytime to talk about it, and I've said that in public. Other members of the council spent an entire evening sitting at the Planning Commission making super clear how important this being done right is to us. And I guess I just haven't seen that effort on the other side. And so lots of questions for me. Certainly, I'm only one of 5 people. Anyone's welcome to make a motion to approve or disapprove or whatever y'all want to do with the request here. But for me, I just still don't know enough. I don't know enough about the relocation of the stream, which is news to me and is different information than I received from people more familiar with the project than I am. You guys haven't talked to State Highway. So for me, I need more info. That's where I am. I don't know about anybody else.
I agree with you. Brendan, I don't know if it's possible for you and I to walk the site. That would be very helpful to understand that. I don't feel that I have permission to go walk it on my own. Greg, really appreciate your design here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, truly, the changes are
Nice.
a massive improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree too, as far as just, this is a complex piece of property. There's a lot of different things going on with it. And we're trying to make certain that we do the right decisions. And even though it may be an, state highway, safety is important, because once the building's done, having a large truck go in there and turn around and go in there, and people coming down, because you're like accelerating your speed as you're coming down that hill, and you're at the base of that hill going over that bridge. So I think, I do agree as far as the state highway, relating to that part of it, that it's feasible from that perspective, relating to the trucks swinging in there to do deliveries. So, I mean, I would agree with all the points made by Councilmember Kaiser. And I think it's just important that we have a, better clarity relating to the project that is a complicated one, to make the right decision for the community.
I got a question. Isn't there a utility pole here also by that entrance?
Yeah.
There is.
There is an entrance. So if you were to widen that entrance, you would have to move the utility pole, correct? If you were going to extend it to the south, you would have to move the utility pole.
Move the utility pole, there's substantial storm
Yes.
drain that
Yeah.
runs on the
Yep.
inside of the
Yes.
entrance.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great piece of property.
It's I kind of understand, it's 24 feet wide. I think it's wide enough for a truck to turn, but the other council members are concerned about it, so I think we need to.
I'm concerned about the traffic
Yes.
behind that truck.
Yes, exactly. And I think we need to hear, if the state highway was okay with it,
Yeah.
we have to be okay with it.
I fully admit
it's
I'm
a
not an
state-
expert in all things.
Right.
Fully admit
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And for me, truly, I think you've done the best you can on the property
site.
here, but maybe the property isn't feasible for the project. And you can't buy just any property you want and turn it into anything you want, right? You have to do things that are feasible. And at every presentation about this project that I've seen, I've just felt like, what is making them think this is feasible? It doesn't feel feasible to me. And so I guess that's where I'm so confused. I would also be willing to walk the property to see if I can visualize it better. I'm not trying to just be a thorn in this project side as much as I've made very clear. I just don't like it for a whole lot of reasons. I also feel very, very, very strongly about our trail system.
Let's just not
And-
walk it as a quorum.
Yeah, let's not do that. So Brandon's just gonna spend a day
Well, I
out
already
there,
know-
and
I know
one
plenty.
at a time, go on a lot of walks.
I know plenty about it. 'Cause I cut the grass, so I know about it. I cut the grass on the property, so I know about it.
Yeah,
Yes, and it's a unique piece of property.
it is definitely that. So,
Council President Kaiser, you bring up the most cogent point here is that the public benefit and the public good. That's our challenge, is to, we're here to serve the public and do what's best for them. So that was a very, very perfect comment. Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, I just, we're all here for a moment in time, and the things that we allow are here a lot longer than any of us are here. I've said this a million times related to different projects. I want Centerville to be somewhere my kids want to stay. I'm not so delusional that they're gonna live here forever, but like I moved back, so it's possible, I guess. Brandon's lived here forever, like it's possible, I guess. But I wanna see the things that we do be the right decisions, not for today, but for a long-term decision.
So, I just highlight a couple of points. One is that this isn't an elimination of an easement that the town has. This is a minor modification to an easement that allows the development as proposed to this property. The town is in need of housing. I've heard that. I don't know that you would all five agree, but my understanding is that the town is in need of residential housing, and this project does offer 6 new residential housing units to the town, which is meaningful. It also allows a business that's already a citizen of the town to expand its business and continue to operate. So from an economic benefit, it's a benefit to the town and a business that's already here.
Which then also does leave us with a vacant building that I think we all agree looks not great. And it'll look, so much better vacant, I'm sure. So that's not compelling for me. You will be hard pressed to find a council member, or maybe even a resident of the town, that's a stronger proponent of rental units. We need rental units. The people who work at GTI, for example, our own police officers, teachers in town, would struggle to purchase the single-family homes that are available here. And I think we absolutely need different types of housing for different types of families, and we absolutely need rental units, for sure. But I also think that not all housing is created equal. And I don't know that you solve our housing problem by putting 6 apartments above a liquor store. I don't know that that gets at what we need from a public good community standpoint related to housing. So like, I hear you, and I talk a lot about our need for housing, but this just might not be it. And I'll ask again, what definition of affordable, like if someone was asked at the liquor store to sign this petition, if they said, what do you mean by affordable, what would the answer have been?
Market rate residential apartment units. They're not
So what's the market rate?
funded, they're
Well,
not.
yeah, no, I understand that. It's not like
market
workforce
rate-
housing or something. But,
That's subjective depending on the location of the property or the apartments. Every town has their own going rate, every location.
yeah.
So that's a subjective question, and I can't answer that here.
So if I was in the liquor store and you asked me to sign this petition and I said, what do you mean for affordable? Your answer would be, I can't answer that?
No. My question would be that it would be a
You're gonna have to come up to a microphone if we're gonna talk a lot.
I think market rate was the term that,
Yeah, you're saying, which I wouldn't equate the market rate in Centerville to the word affordable. So, like I can tell you what it costs to rent like an apartment above Coliseum. I don't know that anyone would call it affordable, but that would be the market rate as established here.
affordable can be very subjective depending on how you
Oh, I totally agree.
see that.
you let us know who you are, please?
Oh, sorry, my name is Ricky. I'm the applicant, Ricky Kalar, and owner and operator of Hillside.
Thank you.
Do you have a anticipated range for the units yet?
No,
Or that's
because
gonna
we've been
depend on
currently
construction.
working with brokers that actually live in Centerville. They've told us, certain rates for certain properties, certain rental units. We haven't locked down a certain number because these numbers constantly change.
Yeah.
And we are not going to slap ourselves with a number and then tomorrow rent could decrease or increase. So by affordable, we're sticking to the market value, and that we feel is a fair market value.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying market rate rental units, which is different than affordable in my mind. And I have my real estate license, so it's not like I'm an idiot when it comes to pricing, but affordable and market, I don't know that anyone would accuse the market rate in Centerville of being affordable. That's part of our whole housing problem.
I think that's a national problem.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, when we're talking, when like your attorney's sitting here saying it serves the public good to have these apartments, does it? I don't know. For me, maybe not. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then,
Subjective, we can disagree. You obviously think this is
that the
great.
council would provide us with what affordable technically means in the town of Centerville, so that we can.
Well, I don't know that we need to belabor the point. I mean, what's proposed is 6 market rate, 2-bedroom apartment
Yeah.
houses. The town needs residential housing. Somebody that moves into one of these apartments could free up another apartment in the town that rents at less. More residential units in the town means more opportunity for people that can move into these units, and will also likely free up other units in the town that might be at different price points. So that's just supply and demand as far as the availability of residential units. And then the last point I was just going to highlight, which has already been spoken about a couple of times, is 322 customers of the store, people coming through the store, signed a petition. Many of them, or most of them, are from Centerville. And that's a meaningful, I've never presented 322 signatures as a petition for a project, and I do projects all over the Mid-Atlantic. I think that just speaks to the fact that people do support this, they do support this business, and they do support the relocation of the business and the project that's proposed. Mr. Worth, while we're here, if you have any thoughts or comments that we can absorb and address, it sounds like the request generally from the council is that we visit the site when whoever would like to visit has the opportunity, and then come back with some more commentary from SHF.
I can read drawings, so I kind of get the idea on what's happening here. And my fellow, I was ready to make a motion to approve all this, but my fellow council members seem to want more information. So, but I'm satisfied with the realignment of the easement and also the architecture of the building, which are the 2 issues where it's deciding. So
if we're going to talk about the petition, I looked at it, I didn't get past page 1 because I saw the same name listed twice on page 1. I thought, well, this isn't going to work for me. So let's toss the petition out right now as a consideration.
Yeah, and as I said, I disagree with the premise, so, on the front page. So, yes, many of them live in the 21617 zip code, for sure. Town of Centerville is a small part of that. All right. Sounds like Councilmember Worth was interested in making a motion, but maybe doesn't want to now for lack of.
Well, I can make it and you can table it. What do you want?
I mean, we can just table it without making it. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want.
We just table it. That's fine.
I'll move to table. I don't know about establishing a date certain.
Do we need to establish a date certain?
It's not an ordinance.
Right.
For you right now, so you don't.
Move to table for further investigation and consideration.
And I can only speak for myself. I'm totally available to discuss the concerns that I have, to meet with State Highway with you if you'd like, to get more information. I will make myself available to do that.
Do we reach out to Carolyn to try to coordinate that with you?
You can reach out to us directly or reach out to Carolyn. It's up to you.
I wouldn't know how to reach out to you directly.
But we have a website and it has our contact info on it.
Okay.
Our business cards are also in Town Hall. Okay.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, next up, new business, wastewater treatment plant update. Such a beautiful cover photo every time, guys.
You always highlight it.
Look forward to seeing it at each update.
All right, well, hello, everyone. Good to see you guys. It's been a while. I'm Jill Turner, the program manager.
I'm David Nixon, Whitman, Reichardt and Associates, the engineering firm working with the town.
Skip Matthews, everybody knows me.
So we'll just cover a couple topics here. We'll start with the background. We'll talk a little bit about kind of where we are today, what the next steps are, The schedule, which is just a high-level milestone. We definitely didn't get into the weeds of a 3 and 5 year schedule of stuff, and then some funding discussions. So David, I'll pass it to you.
So the planned upgrade and expansion of the wastewater treatment plant is to provide, enhanced nutrient removal levels of treatment, which is the current limit of technology for Maryland. And we have recommended a membrane type bioreactor for the treatment process. Again, one of the most advanced types of wastewater treatment that is commonly used across the United States. And expanding the treatment capacity from the existing up to 1 MGD. In parallel with the expansion and upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant is the disposal of the treated effluent. We're working through expanding the stream discharge. Currently can discharge during the winter into gravel run. We're looking at expanding or extending that outfall to get into the Corsica River proper and be allowed to do that year round.
That seems to be a very key component of this whole process, doesn't it?
Yes, there's a reason that the vast majority of wastewater treatment plants discharge into surface water streams and rivers. Absolutely. It is the most economical way. It accommodates the flows of the wastewater treatment plant naturally. So that's, yes, definitely the path to follow.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
You have to stand on your head for this one?
Whoa.
For the past several months, I'll work through I believe it's in your packets.
I didn't do it when I printed.
Past several months, we've been addressing comments that MDE has brought up on our preliminary engineering report to expand and upgrade the wastewater treatment plant. We again resubmitted what we believe is a final addressing all of MDE's comments back to MDE in December. For the outfall extension, we have met with a couple of different public outreach, a couple of different groups during public outreach meetings and specific interest groups. We also started the water quality testing, taking samples of the Corsica River in December, where MD has suggested that 3 samples be taken during cold weather months. We do December, January, and February samples, and then do 3 more months in warm weather. And this is really to get the background water quality in Corsica River today. Before we do anything with the wastewater treatment plant. So when the wastewater treatment plant does come online, we can directly compare apples to apples of what the water quality is.
Is your sampling at a single point distant from the proposed plant, or are you doing it several points out?
We're taking samples at 4 different stations, and these are stations that have been previously sampled by MDE and DNR in the past, so we're adding. MDE and DNR haven't taken samples from these sites in 6-7 years, so we're kind of adding to their catalog of information to get more recent samples. And adding some more water quality that they wouldn't normally take for aquatic health. It's more for background and comparing to the wastewater treatment plant effluent.
Thank you.
Certainly. We have also begun the mixing study, which is another reason that we're sampling from 4 different points in the Corsica River. The mixing study is going to help us determine where in the Corsica River it's most advantageous to get mixing of the wastewater treatment plant effluent with the river water so it doesn't become stagnant and build up in wastewater concentrations. It will mix with the river movements, the tidal movements, as well as the river flow. So that mixing study is a computer modeling study. We met with MDE and DNR to talk about fish spawning and what information DNR would be interested in the mixing study, to make sure that we're going to get them the information at the same time that we get the MDE nutrient and bacteria and solids information that they would typically ask for. And the lagoon expansion.
If we started the project with the lagoon expansion a few years ago, actually. That's been moving along kind of slow. The lagoon has to be expanded regardless of where the discharge is, and we need the capacity for it. That was the reason we started that a few years ago with the plan to go ahead and expand the lagoon. Because it goes along with the farm, spray irrigation and such and everything. The farm doesn't take the water that it was originally engineered and said it was supposed to be able to take. The absorption rate isn't as high as they say it should have been. So regardless of whether we upgrade the plant or not, we need a larger lagoon. The lagoon is figured for the capacity of the new plant. But either way, even if we don't, do the plant upgrade, we still need to expand that lagoon. So.
But if we're allowed stream discharge, we may not need to do that, or may need to look at a phased approach where do something now to get us to a plant expansion.
The problem with the stream discharge, can you sit here and tell me that we can discharge 100% at 1 million gallons a day by MDE's permitting?
No, that's what we have engineers for.
Right.
I can tell you very little about this, Kip.
But the thing is, we can't either. David, how much are they? It's like, it's not the full 1 million gallons a day. We're going to be limited. Can you, because I'll quote it wrong.
No, MD is interested in the town continuing to use the spray irrigation to the extent practical. And so that's going to continue on indefinitely. And it's only capable right now of around 0.5 MGD. So it's never going to be handling the 1 MGD.
But the talk was, if we got it for year round, we may only be able to discharge, it was 450,000 gallons a day. That's not 1 million gallons a day. It's quite a ways from it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
All right.
A slight derailment, if I might, here for a second.
No worries.
So you said something interesting there, that the spray field now is not able to accommodate the full 542 of our permit.
the way the spray field was designed and the way
it operates now, yeah.
And the way that MDE and Department of Agriculture have us curtailed, it can't. So it can't, because right now we're limited, we can only spray March 1st till December 15th. We can't spray December 15th to March 1st.
Because the ground's frozen, right.
That changed just this last permit, and it's a Department of Agriculture reason being that they limited it because the nitrogen uptake of the plants doesn't occur in those months. The thing is, we have a nutrient removal wastewater plant, so it's not like we're dumping a lot of nitrogen there. That's where other systems have, taken it to the Department of Agriculture, and they've also got approved to spray year round. So just, we're not at that. So.
Kip, when I was last on council, I worked with you to sort of monitor our effluent handling compared to the permit. You remember we had all sorts of graphs and tables and so forth. And I know a lot has changed since then. You've killed a lot of I&I with the Commerce and Liberty Project and others. You've upgraded some equipment. Where just in general terms, where are we now with what we're doing compared to our permit of 542? And also, I guess, where are we now compared to what you think that field can handle?
All right, as far as the 542, we're at 80% now. Actually, year before last, we crept up to 83%. Because of the work that you discussed, we've eliminated a good bit of I&I. We haven't eliminated all of it, but we did recoup some allocations out of that, a substantial number, which even surprised me. So, you know, as far as what we can spray at the current farm, there's places we can expand out there that were designed that way. But the other thing that's changed is MDE has changed their thoughts as far as we having to own the property we irrigate on. So now it's a little easier to get the local farmers, if they want water from this, which we've got one that's come to us before, wanting to get the water from us for their irrigation. So that's opened up a whole nother door for us to look at.
So 83% is about 450.
Yeah.
What can the field handle now, the spray field?
It's,
is it right there?
You're about right there.
Okay.
During the spray season that we're allowed to do. But the thing that throws a wrench in it is climate change and wetter weather through the summer and the fall that we didn't used to have. So that also, you have a wet year, we can't spray as much. You have a dry year, we can spray pretty constant then. So.
Thank you.
All right, so just continuing on with the focus areas, we are also working on a current lab building that is located at the wastewater treatment plant. We are renovating that building. So exciting. The construction of that began January the 6th, and it's really just more of like internal modernization of the building. They're getting like, more office space for the people who are there. They've got better bathrooms. I mean, just amazing. So that is underway, and it is currently scheduled to run through possible completion around the end of March.
Awesome.
So some of the next steps with the one thing that we can move forward with the wastewater treatment plant upgrade is the geotechnical investigation that's going to be needed for the new facilities, tanks, and buildings that are needed on site. We're going to continue with the mixing study. That's going to take, again, several months. A lot of that is, providing information to MDE and DNR and getting their feedback on the information that we provide, and construction costs and methods, if there's ways to make it more efficient. Spray irrigation, if you ever come across a field within short distance, the town needs to buy it for spray irrigation. It's just, that's also, it's a viable way. It's a proven way. But like Kip is saying, there's a lot of changes for spray irrigation, so it's not as simple as it first appeared 25 years ago for spray irrigation. And we'll wait final approval of the PER, working on the lagoon design, the lab building.
We talked about lagoon years ago, needing to raise the walls so it'll hold no water, right?
Yeah, we need to.
I remember you bringing that up years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, that's fine.
So for a schedule, we submitted the PER back to MDE in December. It's taken them about 3 months each time for them to come back with, we hope, the approval this time, not more comments. And then we can start the final design of the treatment plant. And then, we need to get construction permitting. There's the MDE sewage permit, stormwater permitting, all the lovely permitting that all takes time. And again, you have to get used to this, working in water and wastewater. I mean, it's just, it seems like we're not doing a lot, but it's a lot of back and forth with the state. And then bidding and construction. Construction will go out through 2030, and then we'll start up the facility then.
Will the lagoon schedule kind of follow this, or is it going to be a little sooner?
No, we're hoping to have that constructed by the end of December of '26.
Okay.
So,
Can you comment on as far as below, you say develop affluent disposal options. Were you getting ready to go there? Sorry.
So, no, it's a good point, because that's kind of a parallel path. There's the outfall. There's the wastewater treatment plant, and that's got its own permitting and PER, and then there's the outfall. What are we going to do with the treated effluent? That's kind of a separate path. MDE is still involved, but we also have DNR, we have the mixing study, and we have other things that go into that.
So the pipe that comes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the pipe that comes right out of the plant, it doesn't care if it goes into the Corsica or to a spray field. It's the same, right? So it's on its own, as you were saying, it's on its own critical path, and where that goes after the fact is a different critical path.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
MDE, the wastewater treatment plant, has an outfall, a sampling point, and then what happens after that, the permit.
One or the other won't change what the plant looks like.
Other than we may need pumping to get to a spray irrigation lagoon.
Got it.
And it's less likely that we would need pumping to get to the Corsica River, depending on how far we have to go, but.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a good point. So as far as just kind of that discharge is kind of separate and not affecting, so that was a good statement as far as just,
I think that's
why
right.
that can continue to be like, what's the best pipe in this discussion that, I was just listening in on when Shore Rivers has been here to town council, discussions that you've had, about, spray fields and the piping, or, again, we've talked about the technology, the PFAS, technology, there's different options there, right, that you continue to look at to see what makes sense. And too, from a cost perspective, too, because, as it relates to that, too, what is it that makes most economic sense as well, of course, because you have options.
And
Right,
the other thing you need to remember, discharge to the stream is one permit. Discharge to the spray field is another permit. The discharge to the stream is always more stringent on the limitations. So
Right.
you have to treat it further
Right.
to do a stream discharge than you do to do the land apply.
Makes
So
sense.
there is a difference in the plant as to where it might go.
It may not be a difference in the plant other than tweaking things, adding more expensive chemicals to it, that type of thing.
Okay.
But you don't know what the future holds. And time kind of dictates that anything that's discharged into the stream gets tighter and tighter.
Yeah, it's
and
not going to
tighter.
change, right.
When
Or be-
what goes
More.
to the farm field basically stays,
Somewhat constant.
similar, right.
And we all want that stringent
Yeah,
controls over what goes in the bay. So it's,
Yeah.
1,000%.
we're going to live to it, right? Because that's what we all want.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we're certainly not going to get at the climate change challenges we have by
Yeah.
further deteriorating the landscape, so.
Well, not to sidetrack, but, and I didn't ask Janelle to put it on the presentation, but one thing that the council had asked me the last time I was here, speaking of the PFAS and a potential reverse osmosis facility, and, we all know it's millions of dollars to construct that, and your question was, how much would it cost to actually operate a reverse osmosis system? And we did do some investigation into that, and it's more than $250,000 a year at today's rates for electricity, labor, maintenance, and repairs of that theoretical
if you just pretend that you were given an RO facility that could separate out. That's doesn't even affect, RO produces a reject water. So reverse osmosis, 100 gallons of water goes into the reverse osmosis, 75 gallons comes out as very clean water, 25 gallons comes out with all of the contaminants. So the $250,000 a year to operate the RO doesn't even affect the reject water. And for 1 million gallons a day, it's 250,000 gallons a day of reject water that isn't even in that RO system cost or the $250,000 RO operation.
So we've talked about some really big numbers for this plant. He mentioned $250,000. That goes in the rates, so that's 25 cents per gallon of treated water in the rates. Yikes.
So the wastewater treatment plant that we're expanding and upgrading will meet all of the current regulations and requirements of MDE, and everything that we anticipate and they anticipate would be in the future 1 MGD permit for the wastewater treatment plant. Any other contaminants, haven't been, there's no requirement for them. Nobody in Maryland is treating for them.
Right.
And again, to your point with the membrane facility, the MBR facility, that's the state of the art, that gives you the best opportunity for upgrade 10, 20, 30 years ago from now for whatever comes in the future.
Okay.
And now the fun stuff. I'll turn it to Janelle.
All right, so just talking through some of our opportunities for funding this huge project. So the Bay Restoration Funds are currently working with our grant specialist, Tanya Wright, to essentially recertify, I guess is probably a good word. We have to submit a new application so that we can retain or potentially get more, because we got some big numbers in there now compared to what was originally submitted, so hoping for more. But at least to retain the funding that we currently have on hold with them. So the congressionally directed spending funds are still available and available to us whenever we're ready to use them. We set aside $2 million of our ARPA funds to support the lagoon expansion. The rural development, which is the commerce funding, the $200,000 that we have is paying for the current lab renovations. And Kip, I'll let you talk a little bit if you have information on the MDE Clean Water Fund at all.
These are just
loan opportunities.
Loan opportunities. Some of them do have loan grant, loan principal forgiveness, but when you apply for it, you assume from the beginning that it's a loan, because you don't know until the end how much principal forgiveness there's going to be with it. So, I mean, they're state revolving loan funds. Of course, some of that's filtered down from EPA and federal money with ties to which direction it goes and that kind of stuff. So we're doing as many applications as we can find to make this work.
And Carolyn, I know you've been working with our lobbyists. What is Ashley's read on the state's current fiscal?
Not very good.
Yeah.
Not very good.
Yeah, the state's fiscal situation a little bit rough this year. But
Right.
She is still setting up, trying to set up meetings, but
Yeah.
I also want to go back to try and get some more. I want to talk to them first, the congressionally directed spending, because I think when the first application was put in, it was just general for the wastewater treatment plant, which I know you can't apply again for the same thing. But then I was going to ask, can I apply for a certain aspect of the treatment plant?
Yeah.
Like, can I say, I want it for, I don't know, David.
They haven't really said yet if congressionally directed spending is going to be an opportunity in the new Congress. Our congressperson is likely, he's the chair of the Freedom Caucus now, is likely not to participate in congressionally directed spending if it's available. If the Senate does it, we could certainly explore that. That's what I do professionally. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I tell my staff. We're gonna not spend a lot of time on the federal government right now and really focus on the state, because just the level of dysfunction and the amount of time it's gonna take them to get up to speed, I think even if earmarks are made available by Congress, that's supposing they can pass a budget at all, then you have agency staff that's brand new that has to figure out how to actually land that money into the field. As not smooth as it has been since earmarks returned, I think it's gonna be a little clunkier even, if they exist. But not to paint a bright and sunny picture, but earmarks might not be our best opportunity in the short term, especially just given that our member of Congress is disinclined to participate in that process.
So, last but not least, we just wanted to show the cost of all of this and the deficit that we currently still have. So, I mean, nobody wants to see that, but we got to put it out there so we can start putting our caps on, to your point, Ashley, just now, and Carolyn as well, just trying to go through all the options and opportunities that are available to the town for funding this very important project.
Yeah, and the state's in a rough fiscal position, but they're still gonna fund Bay Restoration always. I mean, I don't, I wouldn't count us out yet, but it certainly doesn't look as great as it could.
Yeah, because right now, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, so the top is about $19.2 million, right? And then, so you've got the 38 million, which doesn't include the outfall, which is about, what, 12 million-ish? Somewhere in there?
In there, yep.
So, again, this is all ballpark, because, again, this is, it's a moving train to kind of know. But your shortfall right now, money that you need to find, is about $30 million plus. Just to kind of, that's kind of the gap right now as we sit here today. Okay. So.
Okay. You are correct.
Great.
Any other questions, thoughts, feedback?
Okay.
Encouraging and frightening all at the same time.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Just, great.
But thank you, yeah, thank you for putting
Thank you
this
so much.
together.
For your time.
Appreciate all of
interest
you.
in this project.
Yeah.
Kind of update us, I think I would like, as far as just an update. Members, again, I know this is a slow-moving train, like this next year, but maybe like in 6 months or whatever's appropriate, to kind of, when there's been some activity, to kind of refresh, to kind of say, here's where we are, these are the discussions we've had, and, because this year is just, kind of it'll be a slower year as far as how this kind of moves out, and then design will happen next year. But again, everything leading up to that design is important information, so. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Reports of boards and commissions, Maryland Municipal League.
Nothing significant to report, other than session is underway. As you've alluded to, I know that the MML lobbyist and the legislative committee are hard at work.
Okay. Council of Governments.
Nothing to report. The meeting got canceled. I have one February 12th.
And that's here?
I forgot where it was at.
Yes.
Here.
Yes, here. Yes.
Nothing for Economic Development, Park Advisory Board.
Yeah, I had the meeting, they gave the annual report, which I think's been included in the package tonight, which was nice as far as what happened this past year and things relating to the park and maintenance. One of the discussions about kind of next phase, which I've chatted about previously, as far as the wharf, and we had some discussion, actually just a meeting, myself and Mike Whitehill, and as it relates to kind of moving forward in order to go with those improvements at the wharf, which are the band shell, the band shell, parking, and lighting. It's kind of three things. So as far
And
as
walking path.
and the walk, yeah, and the so as far as just moving forward with the RFP to kind of get that going. So what was discussed is the fish derby is very, it's very successful, and there's been a movie night that same evening, which has not been. There's just been very little attendance at the movie night. So the discussion at the committee, and still it'll follow up, that what would be probably good and successful is once that is done at the wharf, the band shell, it's like, well, what event should be there at the wharf that would kind of like market that new band shell and bring the community to the wharf, which is a great asset for the town. So is it a movie? Is it theater? What does it look like? And to be determined. So I think it's just depending on how quickly this RFP to kind of know, and we've got to back up about, because if you do a movie night, you need several months in order to organize that. And what would that date be? So more planning around that, but it was really discussion associated with that. That was, but I think once the wharf and those amenities are done, it's going to be a real great asset to celebrate and to use. And actually, relating to Carolyn, help me here, Carol.
Thanks,
Yeah, as far as utilizing her because it would be events driven. So, so it's marketed and to bring the town, the residents to the event and really just, capitalize on that asset for the community. So,
Awesome.
That's it.
Planning Commission. I'm sure you have nothing.
Nothing to report. Right?
Sorry to say, we had a very eventful night. GTI came in for final site plan approval, which was tabled. There's questions about tree canopy requirements in the public works agreement, the effectiveness of the new drying trailers. They really didn't have any data on those particular drying trailers or where they've been used in the past. So
is that within the Planning Commission's scope?
One of the criteria we have now for site plan, remember when you all passed that ordinance, relates to environmental factors, which odor probably falls into. So it does give a little bit more.
Yeah, so, okay. And then, and also their drawings didn't show the difference in how Laser Drive was going to be extended. It's going to be extended less than it was in the drawings that they showed. So there's some technical things that need to be worked out. Also the small shopping center that's going to be placed in the business park, they came for final approval, but that was tabled as well due to questions about their signage. The signage seemed to be non-compliant. Well, let's just say it wasn't compliant with the sign ordinance.
Electronic?
It was rather big.
Like 6 foot
too
deer
big
or?
Physically too large, yes. Okay. And there's questions about the parking distance from 213. They seem to be encroaching on that. I guess I kind of brought this up last night, that the moratorium is going to be coming to an end in April, and they aren't ready to submit any ordinance revisions anytime soon. So we need to consider extending the moratorium.
For how long?
I was going to recommend 3 months, and that we could get Sharon to go ahead and draft an ordinance. We need to, because there's ordinances don't take effect for 60 days after we pass them. We need to get this thing introduced probably at the next meeting. So
where are we on the? Okay,
they are moving along pretty well on the revisions to the that have to do with the
Planned neighborhood.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right. Okay. So I guess these I guess what was hoped during the moratorium, there wouldn't be as many submittals of projects, but it seems like they're getting like 2 projects submitted every meeting, which means they can't really work on anything, except at their work sessions. So,
right.
And they try to limit those to like an hour and a half, 2 hours or something, and like planning commission meetings, they've been going for like 2.5 hours.
But half that's the minutes.
Right, so, yeah. So, and they've also uncovered other, even if you, make those revisions, there's parts in the, there's little pieces that have to be fixed in other parts of the code as well, so.
Right. So I wasn't a huge fan of the moratorium. You and I talked about this the first go round. So
Right.
thrilled to see it again. If it's not helping, I guess, why do we need to extend it? Like, I agree, there's been a ton of activity in front of the planning commission. This is a lot to ask.
Well,
of
there'd be a lot
volunteer
more
body.
residential, major site plans that would probably be submitted.
Will there be? We need like $30 million before we can do any.
Well, that would be part of the negotiations with these,
I mean, the price is high.
with these large residential projects,
Yes.
would be to negotiate that.
There's a bit of a funding imposed moratorium in place.
Yes. That doesn't keep them from coming before the
Well,
plan,
I mean, sure.
and then they would end up being redirected because we changed the code. So it's better to like have it all, I think it's better to have everything nailed down before the large residential projects want to come in. Before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just always fascinated by applicants who seem to not pay any attention to anything going on in the town. But that's clearly the case.
What do you mean?
Like, I would not apply to build a large residential community. Like, we need 30 million bucks. There's a divorce from reality, I think, when people come to the planning commission.
Yeah.
But,
Well, there's a timeline to a lot of these things, too.
Yeah. They've got
everything
contracts
our
on
timeline
property
works,
and, yeah.
I think, Dan, you alluded to this as possibility that a large development prepays some portion of their allocation fee that helps with the funding.
Yeah, which
Put that in our agreement with the developer.
is probably somewhere we're headed, but makes me nervous for the next, for the council 20 years from now that's trying to pay for a plant.
Right. For the project you mentioned in the business park, they probably got their allocation from those allocations reserved for the business park. They probably transferred from business park to that, so that was.
Right, because, yeah.
They're going to be applying for all new allocation for that strip center?
They're going to use those allocations.
Not get allocations from the from Davis Emery.
So how many allocations will they need?
I don't know that I don't know that we have a number for them yet.
I don't think so.
Let me highlight that Kip just
16.
said within the last half
16.
hour.
Sorry, 16,
That the
yes.
spray field is at capacity.
I know.
While there's room in the permit for the plant, the spray field is done.
We're doing that's the reason for the lagoon.
For the
I
lagoon
understand,
expansion?
I understand, but for right now,
Yeah.
Well, are we at 80% or are we at
Violation of 2 or 3
100%? I mean,
different
right, are we at 80% capacity or 100%? I mean,
well, the
we
spray
can't say
field
we're
is
like,
different than the
the
plant.
spray field's saturated and we're going to have 80% capacity, what's the right answer? So,
Well, it depends on how wet the year is, right? I mean,
well, it's 3-year average, on what the capacity is. It's not like a day-to-day thing,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think part of it too, because with the moratorium, there's the whole allocation of EDUs. So that's where I'm confused about, because again, we just had the presentation. Are we at capacity? And are there EDUs that can be allocated?
right, like, do we have the 7 EDU we were asked for earlier tonight?
I'm sorry?
Like, do we even have?
Right, or just the projects that are coming up. What EDU allocation is available before the new plant, which with the current timeline is 2030? So I don't know the answer to that. And I mean, I don't know as far as just as it relates to projects that come up, is there capacity or isn't there? And if there is, then ties back to the allocation policy that's not done. That was part of the moratorium. So all this ties together, and I'm just, right now, I don't know, just with what's been discussed
Yeah.
tonight.
And the capacity
would you like-
ranges from the details on up, whether a particular site has capacity in the pipe that's in the ground, whether the lift station, if that's what you call them here, has enough capacity that lift station will serve that site. There's a lot of components along the train that Kip's pulling his hair out, trying to make sure he can cover. And right now, it sounds like the spray field is one of your biggest nightmares.
Yes, the spray field is a pinch point. With the expansion, we can breathe easier through the year to the capacity that the plant's designed, okay?
Right.
As far as allocations and EDUs, we have to do a, lost it that quick, capacity management report every year since we've reached the 80%. That's usually finished up by the end of February, so I'll have the new number for you. I can tell you last year's number went up from the previous year because the flows dropped. So, and as long as we can continue to meet the permit, as far as not necessarily the discharge, as far as the 542, but as long as we meet the limitations on the nitrogen and phosphorus, fecal coliform, that kind of thing, that's what keeps us in compliance. So, of course, the closer you get to the 100% capacity, that kind of tightens the noose around it a little bit tighter because it's harder to keep treated to that level. But we're working with it. So we do have, like I say, we've got a considerable number of EDUs available. So, and we've also been working on a new allocation policy, which we have to send to Sharon. When she gets a look at it, then we can forward it to you folks to look at also. And I took a lot of the things that I've heard from you folks over at least the past couple years, and we've incorporated that into that policy as well.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know, yeah, that's good. I didn't know that, as far as just having that EDU. So that'll be coming to us soon?
Yeah, hopefully by the end of February, we'll have that.
Okay, so everything's kind of in February.
Yep.
You'll have the data, EDU policy, and then we'll have further discussion.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Kip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the planning commission?
So what I'm hearing, there's no support for extending the moratorium?
Oh, I think you only heard that from me.
Okay, well,
There's a whole bunch of other people up here.
all right.
I guess one of the, as far as just another 3 months, because when was the moratorium in place? What was the beginning of it?
Well, October, so
October?
yeah, so it'll expire
Right.
in April.
Right. So
I don't know the exact day, but
yeah,
right.
as far as just
It hasn't helped, apparently.
What?
The moratorium.
Yeah, right.
What was it intended to restrict and what is it?
Major site plan.
Residential development. So-
Yeah,
And so
residential.
it has, I guess, but they've still been super busy.
Yeah, getting commercial developments, which
Yes.
we really want, so.
Yeah.
It was intended to stop resident, like you said, residential major site plan review.
Right.
So as far as just having, an extension, whether it's another 3 months, 2 months, what time, is needed to have that review process and have discussion, so for an additional 3 months, because that will take you May, June, July. You'll be in July, in the summer months, when that'll come. And then, I don't know what that process is. I'm not certain. Because it would go in the planning commission, and then does it come to us? I don't know process, sorry.
Yes, the
Yeah,
ordinance.
this does have to go to the planning commission,
Yeah,
right?
the ordinance,
Right. Yeah.
the planning commission gives it to you all, you have to do your process of, it's an ordinance, so it's gonna have a public hearing, and it's gonna
Right.
go through your process. And I'm gonna guess it's a very different way of doing zoning with these transects. It may take you all a little longer than a normal zoning amendment to get comfortable, or you might not like the direction they've headed. It's very different. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what you all are going to do with it when it gets here, but it won't be just an easy like, oh yeah, let's just pass an ordinance.
Right.
I think it'll take some time to understand it.
The T&D took a while.
Yeah. And this is
Yeah.
even a different,
So 3 months probably doesn't even buy us
depends on when they finish.
because things could start coming to the planning commission while we're still dealing with it. So we may need, I just don't love that it feels indefinite to me.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of part of it, as far as this thing keeps kind of going out, and as far as just having a kind of a firm to kind of move through this process is what's somewhat, for me, you know, and focused on that, which is, again, it's important, because it relates to development over the next 10 years, is what it's about.
Yeah.
That'll be here for 100.
And I've changed my mind plenty of times before, so, I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I do want to spend the time to get it right, that's the thing.
Yes.
It is a complicated.
I'm saying I would certainly entertain the conversation around a moratorium,
Okay.
and maybe my mind would be changed.
Right, if we need more than 3 months, you know, I guess we have to revisit it in 3 months, you know?
You're really not selling it.
I know.
Well, what happens if this happens, if it expires, then we have next thing you know, we have people bringing in major site.
But they're not going to get very far for it.
Exactly, I
So
understand
next
that.
thing we
but
know,
still,
I guess that's what I'm saying,
we-
next thing we know,
Yeah,
they've got a 20,000 square foot liquor store, I mean, who knows what's next?
Right.
exactly.
Do we have any more commercial projects in the pipeline that, you know, are going to bog us down? Or take it, besides the 3 that are in play right now?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I can't tell you what'll come in tomorrow, but yeah, right now.
Right, because,
Yeah.
we think the next planning commission meeting will have 3 final site plan reviews, the way things
The ones
are
that have been tabled,
going. Yes, 2 tabled plus the hillside.
Well, they won't be.
They
on the
won't be
next
there.
planning
They won't be,
commission.
they can wait for us.
yeah.
Well, maybe.
Jim's gotta go on a walk. It's like, there's lots to do.
I've seen it. I remember what it looked like before, so it's like,
Yeah.
this is a major improvement, so, okay. Oh, so the next, they have a work session on February, whatever that is,
Fifth, I
3rd,
think.
3rd, 5th, to work on these.
To work on this.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
No, not for the planning
Do we
commission.
want to talk about GTI's letter right now? Sort of. I mean, good a time as any, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So,
like,
was this letter given to the planning commission last night?
they talked about it.
I have the copy
Right.
that I have in there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, they talked about it, but they didn't, and then they finally sent a copy afterwards, so.
Okay.
yeah, that was emailed to me this morning. Technically last night, she just forgot to
Yeah.
attach the attachment. So this morning, I got it.
So technically this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, so when I got this, and we can certainly make this available to anyone who wants to read it, this is not the way my brain works. So I did reach out to GTI and ask for a bit of a layman's term explanation of what I was looking at here. She told me, you know, if I wanted to just focus on one thing, it would be the percentage reduction in the larger numbers, and that the evidence that they've, you know, gathered does point to the equipment working. I was not able to make planning commission yesterday because I was traveling for work, but I did ask the town staff for and listen to the public comment. I appreciate always when people participate in the process, but I think, you know, we have to rely on, like, this to me is facts, and someone saying their throat hurts is not.
Exactly.
So I just would, you know, suggest that the planning commission focus on the facts too.
All these test results are based on the building, not the field. There's no measurements
Right.
of what's happening in the field. And that appears, when they do the drying of their product, produces odors. They did no testing.
And that's
They
the
did
new
no-
trailers or whatever,
Right.
that's where it's fully,
The
gonna
new
be fully
trailer should
enclosed.
take care of that, yeah. And they-
Right.
Well, they're still using the old trailers.
The old trailer, which is like
Right, because of supply
dryer.
chain issues or
Right.
something.
Yes.
And I was there, I'm sorry, and I was there today, I did a tour of the plant, and they took me, I wanted to see the trailers. And so all the old trailers are gone, and the new trailers are in, again, with this whole new system. And actually, their process is changing where, I'm not going to get it correct, as far as just, you know, how they would kind of warm it, cook it, whatever you want to say, you know, the pie analogy that was done last night. Well, now it's almost like a drying process. So I think also, and they didn't have that in place last year, they couldn't get it in place last year.
But they
So-
were using propane before where they're not going to use propane now. The newer trailers don't use propane.
Right.
Yes.
So that, I think that in itself, that whole process is changing.
Yes.
So as far as just the testing that should be done
Yes.
on that, so as far as the fall aspect. So anyway, I just wanted to mention as far as the trailers.
Yes, they're supposed to do another set of testing Monday, and then we'll have those results in a couple weeks. And that's what
But
the
they're
new
not,
stuff.
they're not drying anything yet.
No.
Not till the harvest or
The
whatever.
harvest is over, yeah, so
Not
there's
outside.
nothing for them to dry. Right.
Okay. Okay, well. Anything else?
No, that's fine.
No, you good? Okay.
I'm good.
Reports of department heads, town manager.
We finished the last week and this week finished up interviews for an administrative assistant, which will take the place of a staff person who's moving to another department. They went well. We're going to end up doing second interviews on 2 people, and we'll see what happens there. Earlier this week, I sent the council an email on Senate Bill 204, because I just wanted to make you aware. This is the requirement coming in to set the tax rate by June 1st instead of July 1st. I did ask our lobbyist, there isn't anything in the text that I saw. I just said, can we set it? And can it be effective July 1st, which is when our budget is effective? So she is supposed to check on that. I don't know. I do know MML is trying to get it changed to at least June 15th to allow for the people who have their May-June elections to
Change over.
Yeah, we didn't approve our budget until like early June, so.
Right.
Yeah, we'd have to like accelerate the schedule.
Right.
In order to
Right.
set the tax rate, or to just set the tax rate somewhere in that, yeah.
And I think it'd be even worse for some other municipalities too.
Yeah, so we will see where that goes. And I've got a few other flagged just to keep an eye on, and I'll send them to you as they come in. I have completed the initial draft of the RFP for the Public Information Officer, and I had Carol look at it because she does this in her other part-time. So I said, I just want to make sure I'm not saying the same thing 2 different ways, and then So she just finished her review of it, and so I'm hoping by the end of next week we'll get that out. Tuesday is the Eastern Shore Association of Maryland legislative dinner at Fisherman's, so I will be attending that. I think Council President Kaiser will be there with me.
Yeah, and I think
Me.
Oh,
Three
and
of them.
Gang's all here.
all right,
You
nice.
guys are missing out.
I know.
Gotta work. Gotta save lives.
And I did, Councilmember Worth wanted to let you know, because I did say to you at the last meeting that Karen would present the mid-year budget at this meeting. With the holidays and everything, she asked to move to the beginning, and she was out this week. She's taken that Certified Public Manager class. She's been out in class all week. So in February, she will bring that in.
That'll be fine. Okay.
And then just to remind everyone, the town offices are closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Day. And after a year and a half, our door is installed, our security door is installed at Town Hall.
It's there?
So it is there. They're still finishing up some, they have done really quick work, and it looks really nice.
Like really quick.
Yes, really quick. I mean, they're
Now
pretty
they
much
started.
done. They started Monday, and they're pretty, Carol's door is closed in, the new door is moved.
awesome.
The new door is up, and so we'll have a new locking mechanism. So passcodes will be, and then the girls in the front office will have a remote, they can open the door.
Oh, that's
for people.
awesome.
So, yes, so we're really excited about that. It's a little bit of a construction zone right now when you first walk in.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
if you do come to
it's
Town Hall,
good.
just come to the side door, and that's easier.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can unzip and you can look in through there.
Cool.
Yeah, they have us all closed off. Yeah, very exciting. So that's all I have.
All right, Chief of Police.
Good evening, everyone. I don't really have anything additional for the council this evening, other than I did provide a copy of the Centerville Police Department's year-end review, which should be in front of you. As not to regurgitate everything that's on this piece of paper, I would like to draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner where the green area is, which gives a comparison between the years 2023 and the past year, 2024, as far as the statistics go. There isn't a lot of difference between the numbers. However, at the very bottom of that chart, you'll see incidents, and you're going to notice there's about 1,200 plus more incidents we had in 2024 than we did in 2023. Now, my question, which is I'm sure the same question you're going to have, is what's driving that number? What are the incidents? Why is it that high versus the year before? My answer to you is there's nothing one specific thing that's driven that number any higher other than it's a conglomerate of everything that has transpired throughout the year. We had more motor vehicle incidents, we had more commercial alarms, we had more responses to certain types of crimes. So it's generated from an abundant amount of different things. It wasn't one thing in particular that drove that number up. So I didn't want you to have questions as, oh, well, why do we have 1,000 more incidents this year than we did before? So it wasn't just one thing, it was just a conglomerate of everything put together. A lot of these things on the sheet I've already had talked to council in the past concerning like the special assignments at the very bottom. Those are a lot of the things that we have participated throughout the year. On the second page, there's a command staff officer training. That is a lot of what we are mandated and certified to do every single year. So I listed out as much as I could for the council to see that, you know, what type of trainings we do participate in. So I'm here more for any questions that council may have versus giving you any more information on that.
Any questions?
I have one.
Oh, of course.
Yes, sir. The K-9 truck, where are we at with that?
The K-9 truck?
Yes.
It is 95% complete. We are waiting on the final installation. Well, actually, the installation is done of all the equipment. They're testing the equipment, and it's the safety equipment they're testing for the K-9 itself. So with the K-9 vehicles, we have heat sensors. We have things that to help keep the dog comfortable, heat alarms, so if the heat gets above a certain temperature, windows drop, AC kicks up higher, things of that nature. So they're doing testing on that before we receive the final product from the company. I spoke with them Wednesday or Thursday of last week. They're indicating our delivery date of possibly either tomorrow or next Monday. So I know there was a question earlier, and we had talked about it. One thing I should bring to the council is we had talked about that Maryland Department of Environment and Community grant that we had obtained several years ago that we finally took action on the monies. It was roughly $96,000. So with that money, we had purchased 2 additional speed trailers, which is much needed because the one we had wasn't functioning.
Still jacked up.
It's just sitting there as a bird bath. So we did purchase some very nice speed trailers along with speed indication signs. Like I think we had indicated, like what Chestertown has when you go across the bridge, as soon as you enter their town, they have speed indicator signs. So we were able to purchase 4 of them, which later I'd like to sit before council and get some ideas of where the placement should be or where you think they should be. I mean, I have 2 good ideas.
That's where it tells people their speed?
Yes, and it also collects
can we put one on Hope Road? I feel like I asked this before, or no, because it's a state highway.
That is 100% one of the locations. I was hoping that you would agree upon that and Chesterfield Avenue.
How about 213 where I got a ticket one time for coming into town? Can we put one there to remind me to slow down?
Can't put them everywhere I am.
It can be an outstanding reminder, absolutely. So 2 of the locations I considered, given the amount of complaints that we had in due to location, was Chesterfield Avenue coming into town by the bridge, Hope Road, because we've had many complaints in that area, and I've talked with citizens, which love that idea. So that would give us 2 more that we could use in different.
Route 18 coming
Actually,
into town.
that's a great idea as well. So I know
people-
you're not going to object.
People are,
Yeah.
yeah,
You couldn't
get
say
it.
that, could you?
Yeah,
Every
so-
day.
I couldn't say that.
So we have that available to us here shortly. We're just waiting on delivery of those items. They've already been purchased. And I think that addressed the council person Huffer's earlier question about where we were as far as the expenditures.
I just think from a speeding perspective, our largest challenges that those would benefit from, I think, are those entrances into town.
Absolutely.
Where people just maybe haven't clued into the fact that they're
Sure, and much like the speed trailers, they collect data as well as far as like the speeds. So we can always tap into the sign on Route 18 and see what the data gives us as to like how many speeders we have and what time of day that occurs, so we can adjust our enforcement efforts. So if it says, okay, between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. we have the most amount of speeders, well, we can set up enforcement efforts as well.
Awesome.
So it does give us that information. So, but other than that, I don't have anything additional.
Great. Anything
Thank
else
you.
for the chief? No. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your report. Town attorney.
I have nothing.
Cool. Public Works. Wow, okay. Town clerk.
Just one thing, next week, Tuesday through Friday, I'll be attending IIMC Region 2 Conference in Richmond, Virginia. And there's a lot of training I'm very excited to partake in. So this will be my first big girl trip.
That's a great training to go to for
Yeah,
clerks.
so there's a lot of great.
So what does it stand for?
International. Is it
Municipal
II?
clerk.
That's good.
ICMA.
Close enough, guys.
All for clerks.
Yeah, International Association of Municipal, or International.
I can Google it.
I don't remember the II.
I think it's IAM. I think I meant
Oh, International Association of
municipal.
City
Yeah.
or Clerks, Municipal Clerks, ICMA,
Yes.
International.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's late.
Sorry,
It's
yes,
late.
it's late.
I think
So
it's
I'll be-
IAMC, just using my, put this puzzle together.
So I will be there Tuesday through Friday.
Awesome. Cool. All right, any questions for town department heads? No? Okay. We will now enter our second citizens forum. Anyone that wishes to address the council? Okay. Council roundtable, Councilperson Keel.
I got a appreciation thing from Goodwill Fire Company. I accepted it for the town
Nice.
police. So, Chief, you can come up,
Or they appreciate us. Okay. Oh, we're supporting them.
helping us out,
Okay. All right.
helping us out.
Thank you very
I
much.
feel like you need to go down there, we need to take a photo. Like, let's do this right.
You want to?
Can you take a
Who's
photo?
gonna take the photo?
I'll take the photo.
Do we hang this at
Another
PD
one,
or
too.
town hall?
Oh, my.
That one's CPD.
That was CPD.
We're getting our money's
good?
worth. Getting our money's worth here.
Oh, I don't want to be in it. No, I'm gonna, like, what? I'm gonna go out of there.
Thank you.
One of you knows how to do a plaque handoff, and it is not Councilperson Keel.
For all their support.
Carolyn,
Oh, you want me to do it?
down there and take a picture with Jeff. Got another one.
Are you gonna read it to me?
No.
Hey, hey.
It's not a handshaker.
All right. Well, we appreciate the partnership with Goodwill Fire Company in town, for sure.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Councilperson Keel?
This GTI,
Back to
the smell.
Thought we
And I
were down
live
this
really
road
close, and I don't know what they're smelling because I have not. I think I smelled it twice in December. And they said that was because of the process they were using, so hopefully they can eliminate the odor and be good neighbors, so.
Yeah, and I live closer as the crow flies than the majority of the complaints that we hear. And there was one day that I smelled it pretty strongly, and I reached out to GTI, and it was the same thing. And so I trust that they're doing the right things, and I also think many of the residents that we heard from a year ago similarly trust that. The fervor has died down some. There's a handful of people that remain
Considerable.
incredibly concerned about it. I do just also want to add, since we're on the topic, that property values keep coming up every time GTI comes up. A year ago, I pulled the numbers on residential sales prices in Symphony Village, pulled them again today. Fair to say they're on the up. Like,
Yeah.
property values have not come down as a result of GTI. Symphony Village's property values tend to outpace even the property values in town and in the county as a whole.
Yeah, and the assessment, since we just got a reassessment, I mean, you can look at the data from various parts of town, and I'm sure you could find that it's really not affecting them property values.
Yeah, it's not.
Right.
And so if
Versus even the town versus the county, I'm sure it's,
Right.
yeah, it's
No.
not really affecting property values.
It's not. And I just,
Right.
in case people hear that sort of testimony and then get worried, the data shows that's not reality. Property values in Symphony Village continue to tick up at what some might call an alarming pace. So they're definitely going up. Anything else from you? Okay, Councilmember Beecham.
Two topics, tax assessments and snow removal. So we all got our revised tax assessment here recently, I presume. You know the county is divided into thirds, and they do a third each year. And that provides a smoothing effect, both in terms of load on staff and also the ability to budget for it and account for it. This year was the town of Centerville. When I was on council previously, I approached SDAT and said, hey, why can't the town divide itself into thirds so that we get that same smoothing effect on our scale of budgeting? And they said, yeah, just apply for it. So that may be something we want to address with SDAT is how we would divide our town into thirds and have a third of the town reviewed each year to give us that smoothing effect. Because this year, I think we're not doing, well, we do constant yield internally now. It's not provided by the state. That's going to be a very interesting process to see what constant yield looks like for us with all the new appraised rates. Snow removal, I walk a lot. I know other council members do as well. Dan, you walk a lot.
Well, I drove here tonight because it's kind of hard to navigate the sidewalks, yes.
Yeah, I was upset that a lot of sidewalks were not shoveled, including by some of our larger institutions that I think are major contributors to our way of life in Centerville. I have no idea if it's going to snow again like that. I hope not in certain ways. But if it does, what I'd like to do is get a letter out individually to those entities and say, next time there's going to be a fine. So figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, my family walks a lot, and I had to walk in the street to get to the Y.
I had to walk down, what is it, 304 to get to Acme. Walking down the middle of that road is no fun. At night, yeah.
No, I know.
Right.
Yeah. I reached out to the town manager about a business that is a regular violator of all things town code, just who also did remove not one little bit of snow. And so I think similar to large institutions, I think, yeah, a warning, but then if we get another snow, and I love snow, but I'm over it, so I hope we don't either, but that, yeah, we start finding
Kip
people.
probably agrees with you.
Oh, he loves that.
Anything
That's
else
it.
on snow removal?
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Worth.
Well, okay, while we're, just, Councilmember Beecham brought up the snow removal thing. There's places where the sidewalk is very close to the road, and it's not very helpful when they plow onto the sidewalk.
Right.
That makes, it's quite a, it makes the residents and perhaps some commercial properties kind of frustrated by that. I guess when either state highway or the town plows, they got to consider that, because people do move their cars off the road, so they can clear parking places, but then the snow ends up getting pushed onto the sidewalks, right? Front of my house is not a problem because I got a good buffer between the sidewalk and the street, but up from me, it's not the case. Like in front of the library, for example.
Right.
I mean, they're able
Where
to
it's
keep
right
it
on
clear, but, it's just an issue. And also the snow kind of gets piled up to the corners of the streets where the ADA access is, so you can't really get to the sidewalk when you try to cross the street at crosswalks because there's a big pile of snow there from the snow removal. So, and I know we had a tremendous amount of snow, last time, kind of unusual, but it's just something to pay attention to next time. But Councilmember Hopper Gay and a couple of town residents attended the county's economic outlook at the Kent Island Resort. If people are interested, their slides are available on the economic development website, which is choosequeenannes.com. And they also have the video on the QACTV. It's like 2 hours long, the video. I guess they chopped out a lot of, well, they reduced some of it. So the county, a couple things I learned was the county recently updated their economic development strategic plan, and I haven't really looked at that, but that could be interesting. They also give a budget presentation, and the county has they've set like a 2.5% of assessable tax base limit as their debt limit, okay? And I was surprised that the charter allows us to have 20% of the assessable base, which is it's a much bigger number. I kind of wanted to see what would 2.5% of our assessable tax base would look like, and it's roughly working out to what our current debt load is now, $16.5 million. So, in other words, I wouldn't feel comfortable borrowing another $15 million, on top of the 16 that we have, because I think we're at a comfortable limit of debt limit, and I don't know where we are now as far as debt, because that was from the 2023 budget cycle. Well, I know we're trying to pay some of that down, but we're not going to get it to zero in the next couple of years, I'm sure.
Those are general bonds, not revenue bonds, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's all.
Okay. Councilmember Huffer.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that too. I thought it was very good. It was the first year for it, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about it afterwards. And so I thought it was done very well, actually. And they went through their strategic, plan priorities, which are things that we're talking about at the council, affordable housing being one. Tourism was talked about as well, as far as business development. So I thought it was definitely worthwhile. And they talked about expansion in the county. So they talked about the towns. So as far as the wastewater treatment plant, they talked about that for Centerville and the annexation that was just done. So as far as it was addressed that, in the towns, as far as additional expansion and growth. So that was talked about. So I thought it was very good. One thing, as far as CETA, because I had asked, I didn't know if there had been additional applications for CETA, because talking about business development, so it kind of brought me there. Has there been any additional applications?
Yes, ma'am, we have 7 total.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
So we'll take a look at those and start to schedule
Great.
stuff.
Good. Excellent. And that's the main thing as far as just, again, it was kind of, they talked about the $3 billion problem for the state and how that's going to affect, there's concern with the county, and so kind of to be determined, from an economics perspective. So that's it.
Okay. All right, for me, and I know, snow removal is never going to be perfect, but I do just want to thank Kip and the Public Works staff for all the hard work during the snowstorm.
Yeah.
I saw your staff out relentlessly working to remove the snow, and I know people aren't always super kind to y'all, but I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you do every day, but especially during things like a snowstorm when we rely so much on you and your team. So appreciate you. And I shared this with Kip during the snowstorm, but if people are being, and I've said this before in public meetings too, but if people are being abusive to town staff, I want town staff to just hang up the phone. You don't have to deal with that. And also, as always, feel free to give people my number, and they can, if they feel like yelling at someone, I'd be overjoyed to yell back. So that's totally fine with me.
My number, too.
I'll give them your number, no problem.
My number,
Welcome to talk to them.
I know people tonight acted like we might be hard to find. My number might be the easiest thing to find on the internet.
Yeah, mine's
So-
probably easy too. Right. Yeah.
Or go back and listen to a previous council meeting.
Right, I have 2 phones. You Google me, you'll get them both. Call me on either of them anytime. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion?
Ranch when I call.
No, anyone else though?
I had one other thing, because it was from our last meeting, as far as, I guess Karen giving us an update on the budget, kind of where we stand for this fiscal year. I know it was asked at our last meeting. I think you'd said
Carolyn said next.
Yeah,
next time
the
out.
next. She was
one. Okay,
supposed
good.
to do it
Very good. That's
tonight,
fine.
but yeah,
No,
she
no,
was.
it's just to have it on the radar.
So her
that's all.
plan is the next meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Awesome. All right, if there's nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Bye.